What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it's an exciting announcement. The Backlist Readathon is coming back and it's going to be in March, and I hope you guys are so excited to hear about all of the prompts and all of the new things for this year. So the Backlist Readathon was born last year. It was the first year and it actually was happening right when like the world was crashing down. I'm gonna get to reading now. I really would love to like watch something tonight. I don't know, the coronavirus stuff just kind of like has gotten me in like a funk or whatever, so I'm hoping that the readathon this year will be a little bit more relaxed and we won't be as stressed as we were when like everything was closing and Corona was taking over the world. The Backlist Readathon is a readathon where you get to read all of the books that are not newly published on your shelf. So I know there are different like actual ways for like what backlist means, but for this readathon we are going by if it's not published in 2021. So if it's published between 2020 and all of the other prior years before that, then it counts for this readathon. I have two lovely hosts this year. I am so excited that they wanted to host with me. I have Allie from Mrs. Dunn Reads and I have Bree from Falling for Romance. Allie has a YouTube channel and an Instagram and a story graph that I will link down below, and Bree does have a YouTube, but she actually posts way more on Instagram, and so I will link her links down below as well. I'm so excited. You need to check out Allie's Backlist Readathon video because in her announcement she also tells you her TBR and a bunch of recommendations for each prompt. Now, something that is brand new for this year, and you guys know that I started making the switch over to the story graph, which is just a way better version of Goodreads, and I actually created a whole reading challenge on the story graph, and guys, it is just so incredibly cool. So I have all of the prompts listed on there. You can join the challenge and then you can see exactly what we mean by those specific prompts. You can see the bonus prompt and you can check off which prompts you completed with which books. So I'm very excited. This is the first time that I'm using this feature and I haven't seen anyone else on BookTube use this yet. So I am so proud of myself for being like, okay, I think this is gonna work for a readathon and we're gonna try it all out and I think it's gonna be epic. I will have the link to the special reading challenge and story graph down here for you guys, as well as my story graph profile and Allie's, so you can follow us. You definitely want to keep up with me down there because I do keep my story graph active with everything that I'm reading and I do all of my reviews and everything on there. Okay, so this readathon is going to go from March 7th to March 13th. We have 5 prompts and 1 bonus prompt for you guys. The first prompt is to read a backlist book that was published before 2017. And the reason that we did this, we just wanted to pick a year so that way you actually had to look on your shelf, look on your Goodreads, look on your story graph, and find a book that hasn't been newly published, that was published before 2017. So that way you can read some of those older titles and get those off your list. One of my all-time favorite books that I absolutely love was published in 2016. So if you've been wanting to read The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Werner, this is a polygamist cult book and literally broke my heart. I have a whole reading vlog about it if you want to check it out. This one would definitely fit into that category of prompt, and this would be a perfect time for you to read it. It also was available at my library, so you might be able to find it at yours. Another one of my favorites that it also kind of has a little bit of cult vibes, it's also like a forbidden romance, a little historical fiction, is Cruel Beautiful World by Caroline Leavitt. This was published in 2016, so you could definitely pick this one up as well. I'll throw in one more recommendation for that. The Long Walk by Stephen King was actually published back in 1999, which is, whew, that's so old school back then. But I also have a reading vlog with spoilers for this one, and this one is very dark and disturbing, but it's actually a shorter Stephen King book. I think it was only around 300 pages or so. So if you're trying to get into Stephen King, this is a really good one to start with. And since it's small, you could definitely read this in the readathon. Okay, prompt number 2. This one was definitely created mostly by Allie. She loves middle grade books and we decided to put a middle grade reading prompt. So this is just read a backlist book that is middle grade. Middle grade fiction is normally like younger than young adult. I think it can overlap a little bit, but it's usually from ages like 8 to 12. shelf. The only middle grade book that I actually have read is Wonder, and I read the book and watched the movie a couple years ago. It's really, really good. This also was published back in 2012, so you could totally fit this for both of the reading prompts. But I know that Allie had tons of middle grade recommendations, and so you definitely need to check out her video because she has way more recommendations than me. But I did really love Wonder, and I'm so excited. I'm gonna pick up some of the books that Allie talked about, so that way I can kind of like start diving into middle grade. The next prompt number 3, is to read your favorite genre, but a backlist book. So this is going to be any of your favorite genres. If you love horror, romance, thrillers, sci-fi, historical fiction, it can be anything, and all you have to do is read a book that obviously wasn't published this year in 2021, so something that's previous to that. I will link my romance recommendations video and my thriller recommendations video, which I need to make a part 2 to that. Those are like my 2 types of genres. So I love like romance and I love thrillers, and so you should definitely find some recommendations in those. Okay, prompt number 4 is to read an Own Voices backlist book. Own Voices is a term, and it refers to an author writing about something that's very similar to their own experiences. So they're writing about their own experiences from their own perspective, rather than someone that has an outside perspective writing about a character that they obviously have no experience with. So this can range over a lot of different things. Some of the ones that I'm recommending is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is an Own Voices book, and this was published in 2020, so you can definitely read this for the prompt. This one is pretty dark though, so it talks about a lot of trigger warnings, sexual assault, abuse, drug abuse, a lot of different things like that. So definitely like make sure you look up the trigger warnings before diving into that. But I really did love this book. It was a super great topic. And on the podcast that I do with my friend Gwen, we actually have a book discussion coming out on Monday. So you definitely want to check that out. There's a link to the podcast down below, but we go super in depth about it. So if you have already read it, you can definitely check it out. The Kiss Quotient is also an Own Voices, and this falls into the romance genre. And then The Hate You Give is also Own Voices. And then some of the ones that I'm really excited about are The Good Indians, which I think is like a thriller horror book, and I have that one on my shelf to read, so I've not read it yet. And also I have on my shelf A Large Expanse at Sea. That one is also Own Voices. And so I will definitely try and look up a list of Own Voices books, since that's something that I definitely need to read more of, and I don't have that many recommendations. So I will link any list down below, so that way you guys have references and can kind of look up a bunch for you guys to check out. Okay, number 5 is to read a book recommendation that's a backlist book, but from a book influencer. So book influencer just means that it could be someone on BookTube, Bookstagram, it could be book Twitter, it could be a book podcast, it could be a book blog. So there's a bunch of different ones. I already recommended my romance recommendations, my best books of 2020, and my thriller down below. And I'll also link any type of books that we recommended on the podcast in case you want to get a recommendation from me. But you can also check out anybody, obviously, and use a recommendation from any of your other favorite book influencers. Okay, last but not least, the bonus prompt is to read a Book of the Month backlist title. I am not a Book of the Month member, but I wanted to include this prompt because I know that a lot of people love Book of the Month, and I know that you guys have stacks of Book of the Month books that you have not gotten to. So you have to go and you have to look through those stacks, and you have to pick a book that is published before 2021, and you need to read it and get it off your shelf, or at least read it. You don't have to get it off your shelf, just move it from one shelf to the other, I guess. Obviously, if you're not a Book of the Month member, that's why this is a bonus prompt, so you don't even have to worry about doing it. And I should just go ahead and make a disclaimer that obviously you don't have to complete every single prompt for you to have fun in this readathon. We're not gonna be checking up on anybody. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to do all the prompts. I do want to do daily vlogging, however, but obviously just try your best, have some fun, read some backlist books, and you know, just get excited for it. I think that might have been all the information. Hopefully I didn't forget anything, but you can always just check the resources down below to see everything that I've talked about. Don't forget to join the Storygraph challenge. I have a whole video about moving over to Storygraph. It actually imports all of your Goodreads books, so you don't have to spend hours doing that. Clicking on this button will take you to the Goodreads in a new tab. Okay, cool. Export library. So export library. It's exporting. This may take some time if you have a large library. But you definitely should join our story graph challenge because it's gonna be so fun and it's gonna be so easy to check off those prompts. Okay, that's it. I'm going to come out with a special TBR just for the Backlist Readathon, and you guys will see that in the future. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys very soon in another video. Bye, everyone.